The next day at lunch, Lizzie and her friends ran to the quad, determined to find actual seats at an actual table. "There's one," Gordo cried, pointing to a small table right in the middle of the quad. Lizzie, Miranda, and Gordo dashed over and swung their trays onto the table just seconds before a group of Glee Club kids reached it. "Phew," Lizzie said, settling herself onto the chair. "So the word is Kate dislocated her shoulder," Miranda reported as she unwrapped her sandwich. "All morning at school, everyone had been talking about the same thing. Kate Sanders' big fall. That'll take her out of cheerleading for a month," Gordo said. He glanced at Lizzie and added, "Thanks to Sabrina, the teenage witch." "I didn't do it," Lizzie protested. "I didn't want her to fall." "We all wanted her to fall," Miranda corrected her. "Yeah, but I didn't want her to get hurt." It was a small but important distinction, Lizzie thought. "Well, that's the price you have to pay for having your wishes come true," Gordo told her. At that moment, Kate entered the quad. She wore a blue cardigan sweater with a fake fur collar draped over her shoulders. Beneath it, her left arm hung in a blue sling that she tried to disguise with a printed silk scarf. Even injured, Kate was seriously fashion conscious, but she was having a hard time balancing her tray with only one good arm. Awkwardly, she made her way through the crowded lunch area over to the cheerleaders' table and sat down. "Ugh," Kate groaned dramatically. "It took me 45 minutes to get dressed this morning. This sling does not accessorize well." But there was no response from her minions. The other cheerleaders kept quiet and glanced nervously over at her. Kate looked around at them. "What?" she asked. Suddenly, Claire stood up. Taking a deep breath, she looked at Kate in the eye and said, "Kate, this is the cheerleaders' table." "And I'm a cheerleader," Kate told her, annoyed. The other cheerleaders looked away. Claire smiled at Kate pityingly. "No, you're not," she said. "You can't be a cheerleader with a dislocated shoulder, which means you can't be cheerleading captain. We took a vote. You're out." Kate's blue eyes widened in astonishment. "I'm not out," she cried. "You can't just do that." "Yes, I can," Claire said icily, "because I'm the new cheerleading captain. Turn in your pom-poms after school." Then Claire leaned over and whispered loudly, "It'll be less embarrassing that way." Kate's brow wrinkled in confusion. She looked around the table, but none of the other cheerleaders would meet her eyes. "I think you should leave now," Claire said smugly. Kate stood and gripped her tray clumsily. The cheerleaders sitting nearest to her scooted away as if they thought her new unpopularity might be contagious. Kate took one final look at her squad, then looked around the courtyard. She was searching the crowd for a friendly face, someone who'd invite her to sit with them. But all the kids looked down at their food, pretending to be busy eating. She had shunned every one of them in the past, so no one was feeling too badly about her predicament now. Embarrassed, Kate carried her tray over to an empty patch of grass. "Wow," Lizzie said. She looked at Kate, then back to the cheerleading table, where the other girls had returned, chatting as if nothing had happened. "That was harsh." Miranda grinned. "That was cool." "I wish I had my camera," Gordo said enthusiastically. "I mean, you hear about this stuff happening, but you never actually see it." I wanted to put Kate in her place, but I didn't think her place would be eating alone on the grass." Lizzie couldn't help but glance over at Kate. "Guys, look at her," Lizzie said as she nudged her friends. They turned in their seats to watch the fallen cheerleader. She was kneeling awkwardly in the damp grass, trying to peel the cellophane off her sandwich with one hand. "She's all by herself. Maybe we should ask her to sit with us," Lizzie suggested. Gordo said thoughtfully. "Should we ask her to sit with us, Miranda?" Miranda pursed her lips, as if considering the question. Then she grinned. Simultaneously, Gordo and Miranda burst out singing, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." "Which old witch?" asked Gordo. "The Wicked Witch," Miranda chirped. Lizzie stared at them. "I'll take that as a no," she said dryly. "Ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead," sang Miranda and Gordo, happy as munchkins. As they continued to sing, Lizzie glanced back over to her shoulder at Kate, who was still kneeling on the grass alone. Later that afternoon at the McGuire house, Lizzie's father and mother were in the kitchen cooking dinner when the back door opened. In walked Lainey, their son Matt's silent best friend. Matt's parents never succeeded in getting Lainey to speak, but this just made them all the more determined. "Hi, Lainey," Mrs. McGuire said, smiling anxiously. Lainey looked at Mrs. McGuire and smiled. Mr. McGuire glanced up from the onions he was chopping. "Where's Matt?" he asked. Lainey's smile turned mysterious as he glanced to the right. Then he looked to the left and threw out his arms, gesturing toward the back door. Suddenly the door flew open and Matt strode into the room. He folded his arms across his chest and looked haughtily at his parents. "Hi, Matt," said Mrs. McGuire. "How was school today?" Mr. McGuire asked. "School? How was school?" Matt boomed. He flared his nostrils and sucked air through his teeth. "School was fantastic." Mrs. McGuire looked at him curiously. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I think his voice is changing," Mr. McGuire said, turning back to the onions. Matt sighed impatiently. "My voice is changing," he told his parents. "It's becoming theatrical." Matt's parents stared at him blankly. "You're looking at the star of the school play," Matt explained. Lanny looked at Matt and cocked an eyebrow. "The star?" "Okay, it's only one line," Matt admitted, "but what a line." "Congratulations, honey, that's wonderful," Mrs. McGuire exclaimed. She clapped her hands proudly. "My son, the actor." Mr. McGuire put down the chopping knife and wiped his hands on the apron he was wearing. "I knew you could do it," he told Matt. His wife glanced at him. "You knew he was trying out for the play?" she asked out of the corner of her mouth. "Not a clue," Mr. McGuire muttered back. Then added in a loud whisper, "It's called acting." Mrs. McGuire smiled and rolled her eyes. "My part holds the entire play together," Matt informed them. Laney frowned and shook his head. "Laney, there are no small parts, only small actors," Matt exclaimed. He looked at his parents and with a sweeping gesture cried, "Exit stage left." Laney grabbed the hood of Matt's sweatshirt and pulled him back. He jerked his thumb in the opposite direction. "Thanks, Laney," Matt said. "You're a good understudy." With another arm flourish, he cried, "Exit stage right," as Mr. and Mrs. McGuire watched. Matt and Laney swept out of the room.